Welcome to Nature Cures with Stacia Alicia, where we explore inspiring stories of natural healing and transformation. I'm your host, Stacia Alicia, and I am so excited to have you here today. After years of struggling with obesity, eczema, allergies, IBS, and chronic headaches, RL experienced a total turnaround. He lost weight and healed naturally by living in alignment with the terrain model and the frugivore diet. In this episode, we unpack his unique approach to healing and the deep truths about what causes disease. Let's dive in. Hi, RL.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Excited to be here.
All right, so let's start. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and where you're from?
Yeah, for sure. I am a natural health and diet specialist and also a health coach. So I help people who are looking to transition to a healthier diet. I currently live in Texas, but I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. And just really excited to talk some health and regeneration and all that good stuff.
All right, so let's start with your story. What
For sure.
led you to explore natural healing and the philosophy that you now teach?
Yeah, well, it started originally, actually from when I was a teenager. I always had a some type of pull, some type of energetic pull towards becoming plant-based vegetarian. And I felt like spiritually, the only way that I could really ascend to what I ultimately knew I needed to become was to give up eating living, moving creatures. Like I knew it had to happen at some time. So about 8 years ago, I finally made that transition to become just a veg. I shouldn't say just a, it's still a big step, but becoming a vegetarian. It was right around the time my youngest daughter was born. So I wanted to also raise her with that lifestyle and environment versus having to convert her at a later point in her life. I'd say about roughly around the pandemic time is when I really dove deep into how the body works, the manifestations of the body due to eating the wrong foods, the more of a terrain model base. And that's kind of where I developed my philosophy and really focused in on a 100% plant-based diet.
You mentioned in your bio that you overcome eczema, IBS, allergies, and chronic headaches. How were these
Yes.
conditions impacting your life on a day-to-day basis before you made the change?
For sure, for sure. I mean, each one had a different impact. Number one, I'll start with the eczema. Like anybody who deals or has dealt with eczema knows that it is just one of the most irritating developments of your body that you can deal with. Number one, like I would get eczema everywhere, like on my eyelids, on my
Mm.
face, but behind my ears, literally everywhere on my body, eczema has made an appearance. So you have to deal with that, and then the irritation of the itching and things of that nature. So you have to deal with, somewhat of the embarrassment of having to wear it on your body, and then also the irritation aspect. So that impacted me. Um, as far as the allergies go, I mean, anybody who's dealt with allergies know that they're just a hindrance of everyday life. You know, your eyes are itchy, you're itching, you don't feel good, your nose is stuffy, all those different aspects. And then the chronic headaches. Look, it's hard to operate on a daily basis if you have a headache. And I'm not talking about just some minor headache. I'm talking like a headache to where you have to lay down, and just rest because your head hurts so bad. And now that we're, as a society, we have to be on screens all the time. Being on a screen with a headache, that's another issue there. So, that those were really big issues. The IBS got to a point, irritable bowel syndrome, got to a point where this is before I transitioned, that I was ready to go to the doctor and start going the medical route. I didn't know, like, it didn't matter what I ate. It was just very random. that I just have these massive stomach issues, like really bad bowel movements or constipation, just random stomach issues throughout my life, to the point where, people like my family would think that I was lactose intolerant, even though technically we're all lactose intolerant. That's a whole nother story. Yeah, so just, yeah, honestly, just my livelihood was not tranquil, it was not peaceful. It was always something, some type of issue that was going on with my body.
What was your aha moment when you decided that the conventional approach was not working and that you needed to do something radically different?
I think the aha moment for me was when I really dove deep into the research into how the body works. And that was roughly around the pandemic time. So let's say between 2020 and 2021. Um, I remember with everything going on in the world, I really felt like this accountability for my family to understand how the body works because, when you have governments mandating certain things and employers mandating certain things in certain states and areas of the world, this, that, and the other, you want to make sure you're making the best decisions. So I remember joining a group on Facebook called, at the time, it was called Germ Theory versus Terrain Theory. Now it's called the Terrain Model Refutes Germ Theory. And the leader of that, like kind of the owner of that, her name is Lauren Ferris. She is a natural hygienist. And the content within that group that I learned, like the education I learned, just seeing different journals, different studies on the body and how it works just opened my eyes to like, man, I've been approaching this completely wrong. Once I started making the shifts in my diet, I started to see the changes, like the manifestations, the applied effort and the ultimate results. And that was kind of the aha moment, like, okay, I've had this all wrong. And now it's time to really regroup and regenerate and revitalize my body.
Was the transition to a frugivore raw lifestyle immediate or was it gradual? And what was the process like, the emotional and physical?
Yeah, so
And you
like
can also explain as well what is a frugivore
for
lifestyle
sure.
for those who might not know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll start with that. Start there. Frugivore lifestyle, which I believe is the species appropriate diet. Like as humans, that's what we're supposed to eat. If we're looking at the gold standard of diet, it is to eat whole fruits, leafy greens, some nuts, and some seeds. Like that is the gold standard. So when you start to learn about the terrain model and how everything that happens to your body is a manifestation from within, you start to figure out, okay, well, what is the most optimal foods to make sure my body is operating at its best. Once I realized that that was the frugivore diet, the fruitarian diet, I started to slowly transition. It wasn't something I just did overnight. Prior to that, I was a mostly vegetarian. I shouldn't say mostly. I was 100% vegetarian, mostly vegan. My first transition was okay. Let's get rid of the eggs. Let's get rid of the cheese so we can go full vegan, right? And then after that, it was more along the lines. Okay, now we got to go raw. So I slowly transition one meal at a time. And when I work with people who are looking to transition, that's what I start with. Let's take incremental steps to help you get to a healthier lifestyle. And that's what I did. And over a span of about 3 years, I was where I am now, which I'm 100% plant-based, but I'm about 90 to 95% raw frugivore.
I want you to break down the E.A.T, the EAT philosophy, and
Yes,
what does each element, the E, the A, the T stands for, and what's the importance of each element.
for sure. I would love to. So I studied most of the naturopaths and the leaders that I would say in this movement in the raw movement where Dr. Robert Morse, Yaki Awakened, I mentioned Lauren Ferris, but also Douglas Graham, Herbert Shelton, T.C. Fry, amongst some others. I might be missing someone. I'm sorry if I am. Lauren Lockman, right? A bunch of great great people. I studied all of them. And throughout my studies, I was able to take things from them because they have differing opinions on things, and take from them and through my personal application, develop my own philosophy, which is the E.A.T philosophy. The E.A.T philosophy stands for E is for energy efficiency, the A is for avoiding acid forming foods, and T is toxicity. So, how that works is we'll start with the E, the energy efficiency. What does that mean? Well, we are electrical beings. We run off of electricity. So we need to eat foods with the highest amount of electricity, and those are fruits. Fruits and leafy greens give you more electromagnetic energy than any food on the planet, bar none. The beauty of that is these high electric foods are very easy on digestion. So they cause the least amount of burden on the body. So you're getting high energy foods while expending the least amount of energy through the digestion process. Now, for those who don't know, the digestion process is the heaviest energy burden on the body. That's why when people eat heavy meat diets or just, they go splurge on some comfort food, what do? They get into food comas. They go lay down, they go relax. That's why cats, after they have a big meat meal, they sleep all day, right? Because your body is just drained of energy. So, energy efficiency means eating the high energy foods that cause the least amount of burden. So, your net energy that you receive is the highest. It's like your body's profit and loss system. So as you start to go down the list, like I said, fruits are the highest. It's been measured that fruits have about 12,000 angstroms of electromagnetic energy. Leafy greens are a little bit less, anywhere between 8 and 10,000. And then once you start cooking your food, that energy just completely depletes. All right. So when you're eating meat or you're eating cooked foods and starches and processed foods, you're getting low amounts of energy that cause high amounts of bodily burden. So you're on the wrong side of energy efficiency. So that's the first step. When you start implementing those foods into your body, that's what's happening. So the question is, okay, well, why is it such a big deal if we have energy? Well, that's how our body operates. We're a self-healing organism, meaning our body is constantly trying to get us to a state of health, a state of balance, a state of homeostasis, and it needs electromagnetic energy to do that. So we want the net energy in order to do that. So if you're dealing with ailments, sicknesses, whatever the case may be, your body has to heal that tissue. It needs energy to do so. And it also comes down to how long you live, vitality, right? The more energy you have in store, the longer you're going to live. Once you deplete yourself of energy, it's time to go, so that's the energy efficiency. Avoiding acid forming foods really goes along with that because the acid forming foods, which are your meats, your processed foods, your dairy, your heavy starches, when cooked, they cause extra burden on the body because they're acidic by nature. There's only two sides of chemistry. There's alkaline base and then there's acid, right? And acids are destructive, they're corrosive, while alkalinity is hydration, regenerating, right? Living, life, vitality. So you want to fill your body with more alkaline foods compared to acid forming foods. Acids themselves overwork your cells. When you overwork your cells, guess what your cells have to do? Well, they're living as well, so they have to expend more energy. So that means that their cellular waste is going to be more, right? So that just overworks the body and trying to get rid of all that. And then the last one is toxicity, the T. All right. Toxicity is everything from eating toxic foods, processed foods, things that are not built for the body, but also the company you keep, making sure you're around people
Mm.
that, provide positive energy, positive value to your life, getting sunlight, staying away from all this electricity that's just everywhere around us. Making sure if you're using cleaning products in your house, what are you exposing yourself to? All those things matter. Emotional aspects. Are you at a toxic job? Are you in a toxic relationship? All those things matter. So that is the T in the toxicity. So the EAT philosophy, implementing those into your life is like the secret to you becoming a happier person and becoming the best version of yourself.
Wow. All right. So the terrain model flips
Yes.
the conventional gem theory on its head. Can you explain the difference between the two and why it is so important to you?
For sure. So we've all been, I shouldn't say we all, I feel comfortable saying 99% of us were raised and programmed on the germ theory of health, meaning that there are billions of different bacteria and viruses and things that are attacking us at all time, and our body is always on defense. It's pretty much the foundation of how the world operates from a healthcare standpoint. You know, you go to the doctor, you tell them something's wrong, they look at it from a reactive perspective. Okay, let me treat that versus a proactive perspective of how do I cure that? How do I stop that from happening in the first place? So that is the main difference. The germ theory is looking at outside entities that are attacking us and causing us to get sick versus us taking the accountability on ourselves, which is the terrain model, and understanding that everything that happens to our bodies is a manifestation from within, meaning the habits that we have, the lifestyle that we live ultimately culminates into these different symptoms or manifestations that our body outwardly pushes, whether that's stuffy nose or whether that's a rash or whether that's inflammation, whatever it is, it's the body either doing one of two things. It's healing itself or it's a reaction of something that has happened chronically over time, organs or tissue failing or needing to be healed, basically. So that's the main difference between germ theory and terrain model.
All
Germ
right.
theory puts the onus somewhere else. Terrain model puts the accountability on you. But at the same time, it gives you the power. Because when you have the power, that changes your entire perspective. Because now you can make the changes. You can heal yourself versus having to rely on a system.
I like that. When you were sharing some of the acid forming
Yes.
foods, you named the food groups like carbohydrates and starch, whatever. All right. What are some of the most common acid forming foods that people normally eat or acid forming habits that people have?
Number one is going to be meat. Meat, fish. The majority of the world eats meat. It's kind of been a foundation of diets in most nations across the world. Extremely acid forming, high protein foods are going to be acid forming. Proteins are a culmination of amino acids. It says it right in the name, right? So when you're eating all that meat, if meat is the basis of your diet, then you are going to have extreme acidity within your body. It's just plain and simple. It's chemistry, right? So meat would be the first thing. Dairy, extremely acid forming. We are not meant to eat dairy at all. It is not good for us. They come up with this thing called lactose intolerance, which I alluded to earlier, but everybody is lactose intolerant. We just have different levels of tolerance to lactate, I should say. So if you look at culturally, people of Hispanic and African descent are around 50% of us are what you would consider lactose intolerant. If you look to the Asian nations, Asian culture, they're about 90% lactose intolerant. And the Caucasian culture is anywhere between like 10 and 30%. I allude that to, and this is just a theory of mine, because we are shorter time removed from having lactose in our diet versus the Caucasian nation. That's my personal theory. People might not agree, but yeah, meat, dairy products, and processed food, because processed food is not real food. It's not living food. It was never living food. It's been made in the lab somewhere, and it is acid forming. Yeah, those are going to be your three biggest acid forming foods. And also like soda and stuff like that, that doesn't need to be anywhere near your body. Soda is drinking literal acid. You know what I'm saying? So those things, yeah, for sure. Oh, and you said things outside of food, right? Habits. I mean, smoking, any type of, okay. So, people ask me a lot about cannabis and marijuana, right? Cannabis has some benefits, but it is still acid forming and is still toxic to you. So the best way to consume it would definitely be by a tea. I would say versus smoking it because the chemical composition gets changed and now you're dealing with adding burden to your lungs. But it's a whole nother conversation. Um, Habits. Honestly, look, wearing sunscreen, you know, um, any type of chemical you're putting on your body, it's going to be acid forming. So it's very, very important to be cognizant of what you're putting on your body. Believe it or not, sunlight is extremely healing and healthy, but you have to build up a tolerance and you have to actually clean yourself out from inside because the sunlight is technically acidic. That's why we as humans need to eat such an alkaline based diet to balance out the acidity of the sun because we're meant to be outside. Our body produces melanin to help protect against that. But for those who have a very unhealthy diet, they're going to get sunburned a lot quicker. And obviously, what happens? They resort to things like sunscreen, and that's just not healthy for you. But yeah, those are the main things.
How does energy efficiency relate to like digestion, healing, and long-term vitality?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. Mainly because energy efficiency, if you're very efficient in the energy you get, you're getting high energy with low burden. It means your body has more energy to start the healing process. We're all healing from something. Like every single one of us is born from a genetic disposition of some sort. Some people have a weak heart, some people have weak lungs, some people have weak kidneys, weak liver, this, that, and the other, right? We're all starting from a deficit. Well, if we have the right eating habits, we can correct those. Our body is self-healing, but it needs the energy in order to do so. If you're constantly eating low energy foods that cause high burden, you're never going to heal. You're just going to continuously build up issues and succumb to those dispositions. That's why people end up with chronic illnesses because they never gave their body an opportunity to heal because all they're doing is eating. We as a society, we eat too much. That's why another aspect of energy efficiency, which I didn't get to touch on too much, is intermittent fasting. Eating, in a window and giving your body somewhat of a fast every day so it can replenish itself, regenerate itself. So yeah, it's extremely vital. Energy efficiency to me is the most important part of health.
You shared what the fruitarian lifestyle entails in terms of what you eat. Why do you believe that we were designed biologically to eat that way?
Okay, so if you look at humans and physiologically how we're built, right? If you look at our teeth, right? We're not built to go track down a gazelle and eat it. We're not built to go track down a cow and eat it. Like our teeth is not built for that. We have to cook, like technically we would have to cook things in order to get it to a consistency to where we could eat it. So physiologically, we're built to eat a frugivore diet. Our eyes, what are we attracted to? We're attracted to colors, right? If we're out in the jungle and we're out running, we're going to be attracted to the foods that have colors. If you look at carnivores and things that eat meat, they don't have eyesight like we do, right? They don't gravitate towards colors, right? They have more of a smell sense. We don't have a very strong smell sense. And fruits are not very, like they have a smell and they smell good, but they don't have a strong sense like meat does, like decaying flesh per se, right? So the way we're built physiologically, the way our digestive system is built, is to process fruits. It's not built to process meats. It's not built to process starch. That's why when we eat starch, we gases are produced because our body is ultimately rejecting that food. For the meat can take anywhere from 8 to 24 hours to digest. Think of how much energy that is depleting us of. Whereas melons like watermelon, cantaloupe, and honeydew take roughly 30 minutes to an hour to digest. Very quick, very high water, hydration, right? Other fruits, roughly between 1.5 hours, right? Nuts and seeds, a little bit more burden, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours because of the heavy fat, but very quick, right? Quick digestion. Whereas, like I said, the meat, we're just not built for it. Carnivores, like, cats, for instance, their digestive tract is super small. Like it goes in and goes out quick, not for us. So, I mean, that's from a physiological standpoint. And then if you just look at hydration, like we need hydration as electrical beings, the way our consciousness level is, we have to have hydrating, high water-based foods. What happens when you cook something? It
Mhm.
depletes the water. Like that's what it does naturally. So, on top of that, we're most associated from a DNA perspective to apes and gorillas, mostly gorillas. And what are gorillas? They're frugivores. I always say that if you have any questions about anything, because there's a million people pushing a million different concepts and diets, look to nature. Nature will tell you everything you need to know. And nature tells us our species appropriate diet is to eat as raw frugivores.
How did eating primarily frugivore or raw begin to change your physical and mental state?
This was one of the craziest things. It's like when I went vegetarian, like my initial thought was, man, I'm gonna lose all this weight. I'm gonna be healthy. This is the move I need to make, all these things. And I started gaining weight. And some of the things that I was dealing with were getting a little better, levels were taking steps in the right direction, but not weight. And look, I'm 5'7" on a good day, right? 5'7" on a good day. And I was roughly 200 pounds. And there was no reason on this earth that I should ever be anywhere near that. And once it clicked, and once I started implementing the fruitarian lifestyle into my life, I started dropping weight fast. And the reason being is when you have a very dehydrating diet and a very acid forming diet, your body is going to hold water in because it has to dilute those acids within your body. So people suffer from edema, right? And once you start implementing hydrating foods into your diet, your body doesn't have to hold so much water anymore. So it starts to let it go. So you lose a ton of water weight right from the jump, right? Right from the jump. And then over time, as I've just continued to eat more hydrating foods, um, the weight just started to come off. The ailments, the things I was quote unquote diagnosed with started to go away. And I realized, okay, this is it. I mean, this is what health is supposed to feel like, what it's supposed to look like. I have zero allergies, absolutely zero allergies. I used to take Claritin like it was, I don't know, like eating seeds or something. I usually have Claritin every day. Uh, no more allergies. The only time I would ever get eczema ever is if I get a bug bite. And what happens is I figured this out. When I get a bug bite, what's the first thing you do? You start scratching it, right? So you're opening up with your nails, and this is by design, you're opening up that area. And what your body does, it starts to use that area to get rid of acids. So that's the only time I would ever get a tiny bit of eczema is if I got a bug bite because my body was utilizing it as another elimination panel basically. But yeah, but yeah, the fruitarian lifestyle has just like literally helped with the weight loss. I've lost over 30 pounds. I'm very close to where I want to be. I'm about 5 pounds away from my goal, which I should get there fairly soon. And then it's just about maintaining it at that point.
What challenges did you have while transitioning, whether it's social challenges,
Mm.
emotional challenges, or even detox related challenges?
For sure, for sure. So when I started going raw, majority raw, the first things that started happening is I did go through some pretty big detoxes. So I gave up coffee about 3 years ago. I had used to drink 1 cup of coffee a day. Right? It wasn't too crazy, but still every day, right? And that would be considered a coffeeaholic, I think, if you're doing it every day. Um, And my body immediately went through a detox where I had severe inflammation in my joints for about a week. I've never felt that kind of pain in my life, right? People have to understand that inflammation is your body healing tissue. It's a painful process, but you don't want to stop it because if you stop it, the tissue is never going to heal. And your weak tissue is going to cause obviously issues for whatever tissue it is. So that was the first major detox I had. As I continued to go raw, I had about, I believe it was two major detoxes to where I just had horrific headaches, migraines, stuffy nose, sore throat. Um, yeah, that was pretty much the gist of it. A little bit of diarrhea mixed together, like my body just saying, okay, we're going to utilize the energy that we've accumulated and push all this junk out. Had those two. And after those two, I mean, I haven't been anywhere close to sick and probably, and by sick, I mean having some type of healing event, probably a year. Yeah, no stuffy nose, no, I wake up sometimes a little bit of stuffy, but nothing like a cold or anything, or yeah. So I've been pretty good for about a year.
Any social
Oh
challenges?
yeah, yeah, I forgot about that. The challenges. Okay, there's two main ones. Number one is cooked food addiction. Okay, we are addicted to cooked food naturally. Like what's put in cooked food, and I don't have the exact chemicals. I did a presentation on it before. I can get back to you guys with that though. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there are chemicals, built into a lot of these cooked foods that are addicting from a neurotransmitter standpoint, right? Plus, the smells and everything we've been accustomed to from growing up cause these addictions. Like when we get hungry, we default towards, okay, what do we usually eat? So you'll start to think, oh, well, I used to eat cooked food all the time, so if I smell it, that's what I'm going to want to eat. So dealing with that has been difficult, probably the most difficult. And the second part is the social aspect. Look, everywhere you get in your car and you go outside and you drive, what do you see? A bunch of cooked food establishments. You turn on your TV, what do you see? Burger King or, hamburgers or steak or whatever it is. Things that, not supposed to be eating, but it's everywhere you look. So those have been, and then if you go to like family events or, with family that that are not living the same lifestyle as you, that's tough as well because, you're just surrounded by people that have different, different lifestyles. But those have been the toughest things for sure.
For people who want to give up comfort foods but not sure how to do it, what
Mm,
advice would you give them to kind of like ease their way into it?
for sure. Two things. The first thing I tell everybody is to start small. Start with one aspect and one meal a day. You said comfort foods, right? So, like if you have heavy dinners, right? So, start off with replacing one meal a day with just fruit. And I start with fruit because fruit is the most satiating food that we eat. If it's sweet, it's just amazing, right? And it doesn't have to, find the fruits that you like. There's a million of them. You know what I mean? There's so many different ones. Um, find the ones that you like and, start there and then see how you feel or notice how you feel and then incrementally add a little bit more each day or each week, whatever works for you. That is the best way to do it. And don't think that you have to go from, man, I eat nothing but cooked food to I'm a 100% raw vegan. No, if you are, I say to audit yourself. If you're eating, let's say 90% cooked right now, 10% raw, let's try to get to 80/20, right? Let's try to get to 80/20. See how you feel. You'll see changes. Like that's how powerful the body is. You will see changes just by making that one step. And that those changes, being able to see that is addicting in itself. And you're going to want to do more. And then you just keep going until you find your sweet spot. Maybe your sweet spot in this lifetime is 50/50. But going from 90/10 to 50/50 is going to have major, major, major positive results for your life.
That's true. That's true. What role does mindset play in natural healing, and how do you help your clients to shift their belief systems?
Mindset might be one of the most important things because you are dealing with so much. Everything is working against you. Society's working against you. The systems put in place are working against you. Most likely the people around you are working against you because they're probably not living that lifestyle. Your programming, your conditioning is working against you. So, mindset is massive. If you can conquer the mindset aspect, it will be a lot easier. That's why I always have, when I set up because I put together like plans for people customized to what their lifestyle is. Meditation is a huge part of it. Like you have to, it's imperative. You have to meditate because you have so many things going on in your head when you make major changes in your life that if you can't control what's going in and going out or be able to push things out that don't need to be there, it's going to be a continuous struggle because your mind and your idle mind can be your worst enemy. So mindset is huge. Getting out in nature, being a part of nature, being a part of who you truly are, because that's what we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be living in air conditioned houses and stuff like that. We're supposed to be in nature. We're supposed to be breathing natural air. We're supposed to be in the sun for a good amount of time. We're supposed to be out with hearing the birds and all those different things, grounding ourselves. Extremely important to making the transition because this is, and I tell everybody this too, this isn't a diet, it's a lifestyle. Completely different things.
You just touched on it. You talk about returning to nature. Can you share, because you just breezed over it. So I want you to
Yeah.
share what does that look like beyond the food?
For sure. Well, look, I mean, at our essence, we are tropical people. Like, we come from a tropical area. Like, we all originate from a tropical area. We are animals at nature. I mean, in nature, and we need to be out there. Grounding is extremely important because of the energy aspect, right? That's our recharge. That's our ability to receive the ions from the ground, from the earth. And earth provides us everything we need. That's one of the basis of what I talk about. Like the nature provides us everything that we need. And and let me back up real quick and say that throughout generations and generations, we're talking thousands of years, somewhere man and woman have tried to outsmart the creator, have tried to outsmart nature, and you cannot do that. Like we are a part of nature. And what I mean by that is like when we go out, why do we go out? Why do we feel better when we go outside? Because that's where we're supposed to be. We are symbiotic with nature. We need to be connected to nature at all times, but everything in society, because man and woman has tried to outsmart nature, has taken us away from nature. Like everything we do has taken us away from nature. I mean, most people communicate through a technological device now versus in person, right? Most people sit and watch TV all day instead of actually interacting with people with our, you know what I'm saying? So naturally we've just been pulled away, we've been diluted, we've been ungrounded, and it's imperative that we get back to that. Then this food stuff and it becomes easier because it makes more sense, and energetically it correlates better. It we absorb it better if that makes sense.
What are some of the biggest myths that people have about health, disease, and detox?
Well, first one is going to be protein. I think that is the biggest myth. You got to have so much protein. That's imperative to a healthy lifestyle, and that could not be further from the truth. If anybody's read the China Study, which is an incredible book, I highly advise everybody to take a look at it if you're having questions about any of this. Um, Protein is the biggest catalyst to disease on this planet, the biggest, because we overconsume it and it adds so much burden to our body. It is so destructive to our body. And it's not to say we don't need any. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the overabundance of it is so destructive to our body. It's the reason why heart disease is the number one killer, cancer right behind it, diabetes right behind it. You know what I'm saying? All these internal terrain based diseases that are killing us every day is because of over excess eating of protein and fat. But if you notice, most proteins, specifically animal proteins, are associated with fat. You can't really get around that. So that's the first myth. The second myth is that you can't be healthy eating raw foods. Like you don't get enough nutrition. I did a video debunking that where I tracked everything I ate for a week on Chronometer and showed all the nutrition I'm getting. Not that I don't usually look at that type of stuff, but I just wanted to show the naysayers like, look, I get everything I need. You get every nutrient you need within the plant kingdom. It's just there's no debating that. So those are to me are the two biggest myths. And I try to help educate people when I work with them, because that is a lot of those are mostly the questions they're worried about. Man, am I going to get enough calcium? Am I going to get enough zinc? Am I going to get enough potassium? You know, so
So one of the questions, because I've eaten like that as well. In fact, I'm eating like that now.
yeah,
But one of the questions that I get is, isn't that, especially when they see you eating a lot of fruits, isn't that
yes,
too much sugar? Answer that question for me. When somebody
yeah.
asks you, is that too much sugar? Are you gonna get diabetes? What do you say to that
Okay.
person?
Well, what I will say to them is there is no such thing as too much natural sugar when you're eating whole foods. The reason being is because this is how amazing the creator, whatever you believe in, whoever, however you believe this world was created or culminated. This is how amazing nature is that when it creates an apple or it creates grapes or it creates oranges or mangoes, right? Like it creates a perfect food in one product because the fiber in the food stops us from eating too much. That's why juicing fruits is okay sparingly, but you don't want to do it all the time because that is too much sugar because you're not getting the fiber to be that buffer. But whole foods, you have that buffer. So you can eat as much as you want, right? And that's also where the leafy greens come into play. Leafy greens, we should have by volume as much leafy greens as we're having fruit, not by calories, but by volume because leafy greens don't have a lot of caloric value, but they have a lot of minerals, right? Where fruits are very vitamin heavy and they do provide a lot of minerals too. And the leafy greens are very mineral heavy and they do have vitamins as well. So it's a great balance. So no, you will not get diabetes from eating too much fruit. Diabetes is caused by fat. What happens is you're absorbing so much fat, you're consuming so much fat that it clogs up the arteries. So when you do eat sugar, it gets trapped in the arteries versus and the veins versus being transported to the cells. So that's why if you are diabetic and you check yourself um, after eating fruit, yeah, it might be high. It might be very high blood sugar at that moment, but how long is it staying there? Like check it again in an hour. Is it still high? Because if you don't have a lot of fat in your diet, you're not eating a lot of fat. Yeah, it might be high up front, but it's going to be transported to the cells so quickly that it's not really at a hindrance to you. So the reason people get diabetes and continue to have diabetes is because of fat, not not sugar. And when I'm talking about sugar, I'm talking about fruit sugar, not refined sugar, not sugar they put in Coca-Cola, not high fructose corn syrup. I'm talking real sugar from fruit, natural sugar. So no, there's nothing wrong with consuming. You can consume as much fruit as you want. I do say to eat the leafy greens to help balance it out. But I know people that thrive on just fruit diets as well.
Give me some examples of leafy greens that you would suggest.
Yeah, iceberg lettuce, which is like 96% water, amazing for you. Romaine lettuce is about 95% water, extremely hydrating, extremely great for you. Have an amazing amount of minerals, and they're also great for your teeth because the crunch that you're utilizing keeps your jaw strong because you're chewing it for a while. It's not something you could bite once and swallow. You have to actually chew it. So those are two great. And then you start to go down because as you go down the leafy greens, you want to eat the tender ones. Some of them start to get bitter. And that's your body, that's your satiation, that's your awareness telling you, okay, this is probably isn't for me. So, spinach is probably somewhere in the middle, arugula kind of in the middle. It's starting to get a little bitter. And then you get to like kale, right? Kale is too bitter. We're not supposed to be eating kale. Not saying it's a huge burden or issue if you eat it, but if you're eating a lot of kale, that's going to add some toxicity to your body. So I would stick with the iceberg lettuce, the romaine lettuce, and then spinach, arugula is kind of in the if you're okay if you eat it, but not as optimal as the other two.
The other thing that people always ask about is B12. How do you
Yes.
get your B12 on this frugivore or raw vegan lifestyle?
Right. Okay. So here, the concept, this is where it's important to understand the concept of B12. So our body creates its own B12. The problem is some of us deal with the intrinsic factor where we're not able to absorb it. And the reason we're not able to absorb it is because of high fat diets and a lot of seasonings, garlic, just all the things that we put on cooked food. I shouldn't say all of them, but for the majority of them, seasonings, garlic, dried onion, stuff like that is going to cause your body to fall into that intrinsic factor where you're unable to absorb it. So people think we need to get B12 from the world. We don't. Our body creates it itself. So it's really just about getting your terrain to the point where it can absorb it. That's why you'll see a lot of people who eat nothing but meat, and they say meat is the best thing to get B12 from. That still can't absorb B12 or have low B12. So it's something that's been propaganda against eating healthy, against raw vegan and vegan and even vegetarian diets. And it's something from the supplement companies that they've utilized to sell, which is $1 billion industry, to sell vitamins to people. Ultimately, B12 and the amount of B12 that you need, like, is minuscule. Like it's nothing. It's like 1 microgram, I believe, or something. It might be the recommended is like 7 micrograms, but really it's like 1 microgram and it stays in your system for like 7 years. So B12 is not an issue. It's just one of those myths that is out there to make vegetarians, vegans, and raw vegans feel like they need to do something else, like they're inferior to the animal-based diet.
You mentioned the supplements and vitamins.
Yes.
What are your take or what is your take on that?
Supplements and vitamins is a business. They're isolated vitamins and minerals. They're not whole food. They're not from nature. Like they're made in a lab somewhere. There's synthetic and then there's what they call natural. So I would definitely say natural is better than synthetic. But if you eat out of the fruit and vegetable kingdom, you get everything that you need. Vitamins were created because the standard diet is lacking in so much. When people are eating steak and potatoes, they're lacking so much vitamins. So many vitamins, so much minerals. They're lacking so much that they had to create these isolated vitamins just so people can feel better about what they're eating because they know they were lacking in so many different areas. When you eat from the fruit and the vegetable kingdom, you get everything you need. You don't need vitamins. So
What
I would never recommend vitamins.
what about those persons who say that the fruits and vegetables are not what they used to be back in the day,
Hmm.
so that's why you need to supplement?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I would say this, where are they getting the supplements from? Like you're taking it from somewhere. You're taking those vitamins from somewhere. You're isolating from something. So if you're saying I'm not getting it from the fruit and the vegetables, well, then where's the vitamin coming from to get those things that you think is better than the fruits and the vegetables? And I also say control what you can control. Like we don't know what vegetation was like, in the year 20,000 BC. Like we'll never know that. All we know is nature is providing us what we need right now. So I'm going to feel more comfortable and put more onus and put more stock into nature versus what some company tells me is better for my body. Yeah, it's a cop out. I mean, okay, look at it like this. Okay, so if you're eating, okay, you can say that and then you go eat some potato chips. right? Or you say that, then you go eat a hamburger. Okay, well, you eat a hamburger. The hamburger came from the cow. What did the cow eat? The cow ate grass. So all of the minerals and vitamins and quote unquote nutrition you're getting from that hamburger is coming from the same place the fruit came from. Like it's the same thing. So like I said, it's a cop out, you know. And look, we can only control what we can control. We can't control, what nature is producing today versus 50,000 years ago. We can't.
For
And we're
sure.
different. We're different as a species than we were then. So like nature is always working, to do the same thing our body does. Like we're all made of the same stuff. So while our body is trying to get us a homeostasis and balance, nature is doing the same thing. So if nature is producing something, it's only for the betterment of us. It's never for the detriment of us. Always for the betterment.
That's true. I think what they're speaking about though is the fertilizers, the
Mm,
artificial,
yes,
the companies trying to force ripe the fruits and stuff like
agreed.
that. Yeah.
Look, I will agree with that. I live at the moment in Texas, and like there's just not a lot of farms. I mean, there's farms, but it's not really tropical by any means. Like me and my wife, we're planning on moving to the Caribbean within the next 3 years because we want real, like high quality fruit. You can't
Mhm.
really get it here. We get the best that we can, but when you go to the grocery store, you're at the mercy of them. I mean, they're going to pump it with nitrogen to keep it ripe longer. They're going to pick things earlier than they need to be. Trying to get a pineapple that's actually right, that's actually at the right ripeness, picked at the right time is damn near impossible around here. So yes, there are those challenges, but I would still say worlds ahead of eating the other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
In your coaching practice, what's one transformation that you would say moved you or confirmed to you that you were on the right path?
I'm going to give you two, and they're very short. Two because they deal with two different aspects. The first
Sure.
one was a good friend of mine who was suffering from being a little bit overweight and ended up having to get his gallbladder removed.
Mm,
So right after that, like that really scared him. He reached out to me and wanted me to put together a plan for him because he knew he had to lose weight and he knew he had to get on a change his lifestyle, basically. So, I put together a plan for him, and within 2 weeks, he had lost a significant amount of weight, roughly I want to say 20, 25 pounds, 2 weeks, and felt so much better. And like the buy-in from him, it was just like a kid on Christmas, right? Just seeing, toys underneath the tree. It was like, oh my gosh, this is how easy it can be to change my life. And as somebody who was close to me and being able to do that for him, extremely enlightening. Because I know this stuff works because I've done it on myself. My wife does it. My daughter does it. So it's something I see all the time. And to see somebody close to me actually see that buy-in and make those changes, huge. So that's there. On the other one is more of a mental thing. So I hold retreats with a few other people twice a year. And the last retreat we had, I was doing a one-on-one with somebody there, and he was really dealing with a bad case of eczema. And someone who's dealt with that personally, I was like, okay, well, let's shift you to raw, for a week, and let's see how quick we can get rid of this stuff. And it was really bad on his leg, like really bad. And in the consultation with him, while I'm talking to him, he's telling me that he's a veteran, and he goes to the VA office, the VA hospital once a month, and every time he goes, he cries, and he doesn't understand why he cries. It's something that's just he wanted to fix and he didn't understand why. So throughout the eczema thing, the eczema ended up going away. That's a big part of it, but that's not the main point here. So we talked about it, and through consultation and some mental exercises, I realized that he was crying because every time he went to the VA office and saw people struggling, he felt that was going to be him. So he looked at it like, man, that's going to be me in a few years. I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I'm going to be struggling to make it and to live. And we work together to reverse that thinking. And this is very symbolic to the medical system that we have in place right now. I said, well, instead of going in there looking at what you think you're going to become, go in there and be the example for everybody else who's dealing with what they're dealing with. And if you look at it from that perspective and have them looking at you, then now you're inspiring and sharing your light because you've changed your lifestyle. And now you're in better health. And now they have something they can be inspired by. The next time he went there, he said he did not cry and he has not cried since. And that's over a year. So that one always hits me in a certain way, but very symbolic to the medical system because we look at everything from such a reactive standpoint, like we're constantly dying. Like as we get older, we're dying, but no, we're not. Like we're living. We can live. We don't have to die. We can live. Yeah, we're going to have our expiration date, to transition to the next life, but like we can live. And we make these changes, you're gonna start living instead of dying.
What do you say to people who are like, that might work for you, but my condition is different. It won't work for me.
You can't, somebody told me this a while ago. You can't save everybody. All you can do is share your light and share your information. And if it resonates, it resonates. I would say to everybody, I don't care what diet you're on, I don't care what beliefs you have or not, just be open-minded. I'm open-minded. I am open-minded enough to know that I could be wrong. I could be wrong about some things. And I'm always learning new things, and that's the beauty of life is conversations like we're having and conversations that you have with people, you learn, look at it as a learning opportunity versus a debate. So I would just say to them, hey, look, if you're dealing with something, what do you have to lose? Right? I mean, you have choices. My mantra is everybody has a conscious choice in every decision you make. And when you make that choice, you have to ask yourself one of two things. Is this for the betterment of me or the detriment of me? And if you apply that to everything you do in life, you're going to end up on the better side. You're going to end up in a more conscious life. So that's what I would say to that person is like, look, if you feel that way, that's fine, but it's your choice. You have to make that conscious choice. All I'm doing is sharing my information.
I want you to, for the last time,
Hmm.
paint a picture of your before and after.
I was very overweight and I was trending towards supreme obesity, right? Being 5'7" and 200 pounds just doesn't mix. And who knows how much further it could have went, right? There's no stopping, right? With the lifestyle that I was living. I had eczema that just debilitated my self-confidence because it was all over my body. I was dealing with headaches all the time, so my quality of life was not very good. I dealt with allergies almost on the daily. And living in Texas, oh my gosh, the stuff that comes out over here, allergies will kick your ass. Excuse my language, sorry. And, being in a time in this era, in this generation where we had something like the pandemic, I thought it was extremely important to find the truth about health and how the body works, the truth for me. And by adapting the terrain model and a fruitarian lifestyle, I was able to lose the weight, to get to where I'm supposed to be from a weight perspective, to completely eliminate chronic headaches. I used to live on Advil. I haven't taken Advil in years. I haven't taken any medicine in years to get rid of the eczema, to be able to have a quality of life to where I don't have to be, itchy and looking all rashy all the time. And then I didn't even bring up the irritable bowel syndrome to be able to have normal bathroom habits and to, feel good after I eat instead of, people don't understand how it is to want to eat and be hungry, but know that afterwards it's not going to be a good time. You add more hydration, you add more whole fruits, leafy greens to your diet, and these issues, these ailments will eventually go away if you stick to it. It takes time. Remember how long it takes for you to build disease. It's going to take you a decent amount of time to get rid of it as well.
Is there anything that I did not ask that you want the audience to know?
No, I mean, man, I think you asked some amazing questions. Thank you for having me on this show. I really, really, truly enjoy it. And I'll just say to everybody out there to look, give yourself grace. It's not easy. Start with one thing at a time. That's the only thing I'd say.
We're not done yet, though.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep going. I love it.
I was just asking before we move into the other segment, which is the
For sure.
final segment.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
is there anything, though, I'd want you to share the services that you
Okay.
have or offer and how you can help people and how they can contact you as well.
For sure. So I have a couple different avenues. First and foremost, I have a YouTube channel called the Eat Coach where I do about 2 videos a week on a lot of different things, learning about natural diet and health, my journey, also recipes, tips, transition tips, just answering the questions that I'm sure a lot of you guys have. And I try to be interactive with everybody as well. So that's number one. Number two, I have a website, the Eat Coach, where you can set up a consultation, where we can talk about where you're at and where you're looking to get, what some of your goals are, and I can help build a plan for you. So I do offer the coaching services. I recently released an ebook, which is also on my website, which is about 60 pages. So it's a really hefty ebook that shares a lot of the philosophy, a lot of information, and also has an 8-week transitional plan to help you do like what I call it's called the natural reset. So it's like a natural reset to help you kind of change a few things in your diet and so you can see how you feel. It's a great, like it's if you're really looking to get an idea of what this is like, check out the ebook. It's donation based. So, you basically pay what you feel is right. So definitely do that. And then I do have a book coming out later this year. It's going to be called Detox Yourself: The Secret to Freeing Your Mind and Creating a Healthier Life. So be out on the lookout for that. So you can join my newsletter through my website as well if you want more information on when the book's going to be released. But yep, that's pretty much how you can reach out to me or any social at RL Malpica. You can check me out there as well.
So I'm going to be putting all the links and sharing those in the description section so that you can reach out to RL. All right, so now
Yes.
for the final segment, right? This is the
Yay.
rapid fire round.
Okay.
So
Fun.
I'm going
Fun.
to ask you quickly and you answer as quickly as you can.
Okay.
All right, so one food that you eat every day, or one fruit
Bananas.
that you eat every day.
Bananas.
A food people think that it's healthy, but it is not.
Avocado oil.
A detox mistake that people make.
Supplements.
One habit you've eliminated forever.
Coffee. Drinking coffee.
If you could give one natural healing tip to someone dealing with chronic inflammation or fatigue, what would that be?
Drink a lot of water.
If you could challenge our audience to try one raw or fruit focused habit this week, what would it be?
To replace one of their meals with a fruit meal.
We're going to add some songs to the healing playlist.
Oh, okay.
What's one song, sound, or frequency that grounds or elevates you on your healing journey?
Ooh, that's a good one. Running Away, Bob Marley.
Ah, all right. So you're going to give us your ideas of what should be in your frugivore starter pack. So if someone wanted to start transitioning to a frugivore lifestyle tomorrow, what
Hmm.
would you put in their starter pack? You can put anything.
Ooh, okay. I would put a batch of bananas, and then I would also put two, what are they called? Two like bunches of romaine lettuce pods. I call them romaine lettuce pods, and 1 gallon of water.
Would there be any knowledge resources that you would put in there? I'm sure it's
Oh,
the ebook in there, but any
yeah.
other
I put
resource?
the ebook, but I also put Dr. Douglas Graham's 80-10-10 diet book because there's not, to me, that's the best book to really break down like the different nutrition that you receive in your body.
Right, cool. And the final question,
Yay.
what does true healing mean to you?
True healing to me is ultimate peace in every aspect of your life. So doing an audit on yourself and seeing the issues that you're dealing with from a physical standpoint, but also emotional and also psychological and also spiritual. So getting all of those in balance is what I would call ultimate tranquility, and that is ultimate healing to me.
Thank you so much, RL, for sharing your story, your knowledge, your wisdom with the Nature Cures podcast audience.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Stacy. This was amazing. Thank you.
To our listeners and viewers, I hope that this episode inspired you as much as it inspired me. Remember, healing is a journey, not a destination, and every small step you take counts. You can watch more episodes of Nature Cures with Stacia Alicia on Amazon Audible, Spotify, and YouTube Music. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. If you're watching on YouTube, please check out the description section for links and to stay connected with me on social media. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, nature cures. Blessed love.